I thought today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, my engagement day. But then fiancé, I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. How could he do this in front of everyone?
You're ready for something bigger. Tonight, you become CEO.
Dumped, humiliated, betrayed. But that night, my life changed forever.
The day had started beautifully. I had been looking forward to this engagement for months. I had spent hours picking the perfect dress, making sure my hair and makeup were flawless, and even rehearsing what I'd say if anyone complimented me. I wanted it to be perfect. After all, this was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My fiancé, Quinn, and I had been together for 3 years, and we were finally taking the next step. Or at least, that's what I thought. The hall was decorated with flowers in soft pastels. Twinkling fairy lights hung from the ceiling, and a large banner read, "Congratulations on Quinn and Stella's engagement." Friends and close family were arriving, chatting excitedly and taking photos. Everything looked beautiful, calm, and normal. I was trying to relax, but I could feel my heart racing. It's not easy standing in front of dozens of people, knowing all eyes are on you. Then Quinn arrived. He walked in confidently, smiling at me as if everything were perfect. I smiled back, trying to hide the nervous energy in my chest. I expected him to hold my hand, maybe whisper a small joke to ease my nerves. But instead, he was holding someone else's hand. Someone I had never seen before. "Stella, this is Amelia," he said cheerfully, introducing the woman beside him. Amelia, that was her name. I had heard rumors of her, but I never imagined she would appear here. And not just appear, sit beside him like she belonged there. My heart stopped. My face went pale. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. His mother, usually calm and composed, froze. Her eyes darkened for the first time I had ever seen. Quinn seemed oblivious to her reaction. He was too busy smiling at Amelia, holding her hand, and introducing her to the guests as if she were part of the celebration. I couldn't believe it. My engagement day, the night I had been dreaming of, was being stolen right in front of me. And he didn't even notice. I tried to speak, to confront him, but the words wouldn't come out. I felt a burning rage inside me, a mix of humiliation, betrayal, and heartbreak. The guests were starting to notice the tension. Whispers spread across the hall like wildfire. Everyone could see something was wrong, but no one knew the full story. Amelia, for her part, seemed perfectly at ease. She even covered her mouth to stifle a giggle, her face glowing with excitement and mischief. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run out and never look back. But I didn't. I stood there, frozen, trying to keep my composure. Finally, Quinn's mother spoke. Her voice was calm but sharp. "Son, what kind of occasion is this? How could you bring any random girl here?" The words were like ice. They pierced through the chaos, making everything else seem quieter. I looked at her, hoping for some sign of protection. And she did. She squeezed my hand gently, signaling me to stay calm. Amelia looked at Quinn with those big, pleading eyes, whispering something I couldn't fully hear. Quinn frowned at his mother, thinking her silence meant approval. He invited Amelia to sit beside him. My blood boiled. How could he not see what was happening? How could he choose her over me, right there, in front of everyone? But Quinn's mother wasn't done. Her eyes were calculating. She watched the entire scene unfold with quiet patience. I didn't understand what she was thinking, but I had a feeling she wasn't going to let this slide. The banquet continued. Conversations revolved mostly around work and polite chatter, but Quinn and Amelia were inseparable. Their heads were bent together, whispering and laughing, completely ignoring the engagement we had planned. My face remained cold, my hands trembling, but I refused to leave. I needed to see what his mother would do. Then it happened. The moment that changed everything. The crowd, oblivious to the tension between Quinn, Amelia, and me, started urging us to share the traditional engagement kiss. Quinn leaned forward toward me, hesitant, But just as our lips were about to meet, a soft sob echoed through the hall. It was Amelia. Tears were streaming down her face, her eyes brimming with unspoken emotions. She looked at Quinn with an intensity that stopped him mid-step. My heart clenched, but not with love. This was anger, fury, disbelief. He turned to me, mid-action, and declared loudly, "Stella, I'm sorry. I can't let go of Amelia. Our engagement is off." The hall went silent. My head felt like it would explode. 3 years, countless dreams, and suddenly this. How could he say this in front of everyone? Was I just a placeholder, a joke, a stepping stone? Amelia rushed to him, sobbing uncontrollably. "Quinn, I never meant to hurt anyone. Please don't misunderstand. It's my fault, not yours." She gripped his hand tightly, as if to claim him. And Quinn, he held her back. Gaze full of affection, no trace of guilt toward me. I wanted to yell. I wanted to punch him. But before I could move, Quinn's mother stepped in. Her eyes were icy, her voice sharp and commanding. "I'll ask you one last time. Are you truly determined to choose her, even if it means losing all inheritance rights?" Amelia's face turned pale. Quinn hesitated, then nodded. "Mom, my feelings are genuine. I won't be separated from her again." I felt a flash of disgust, so sharp it burned. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. My fiancé, my supposed future husband, had thrown everything away for someone else. And yet, in that moment, Quinn's mother turned to me with a soft smile. She held my hand gently and whispered, "Tonight, your life is about to change. You're ready for something bigger." I was confused, exhausted, and humiliated, but there was a spark of curiosity. Bigger than this heartbreak? Could anything redeem such a night? That night, while I was still processing the betrayal, I was informed I had been promoted to CEO of the company. Everything changed in a single evening, from being dumped and humiliated to stepping into a position of power I had never imagined. I didn't yet know how I would handle it. I didn't yet know if I was ready. But one thing was clear: my life would never be the same again. And that's where my story truly begins. After that disastrous engagement, I felt numb. I drove home in silence, the city lights flashing past my windshield. Each passing car, each neon sign felt like a reminder of humiliation. I kept replaying the scene in my mind, Quinn smiling at Amelia, holding her hand, and telling me that our engagement was over. The words echoed over and over. I can't let go of Amelia. I wanted to scream. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the world to swallow me whole. But I couldn't. I had to get home, sit in my apartment, and just breathe. When I opened the door, I found Quinn's mother waiting. She had followed me, or maybe she had been one step ahead, as usual. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were sharp, intelligent, and commanding. "Sit down," she said, gesturing toward the living room. "You're not leaving this house tonight until we talk." I sank into the couch, feeling exhausted, both physically and emotionally. She sat across from me, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't scold me, but her presence was enough to make me feel like everything might still be okay. "I know what happened tonight," she said softly, "and I know how much it hurt you. But listen carefully, Stella. You are not the one who lost anything. He did." I blinked, unsure if I understood. But I was dumped in front of everyone. How is that not losing? Her gaze was firm. "Because while he is wasting time with a woman who does not deserve him, you are about to step into something far greater. Something he cannot touch. Something he cannot take from you." She paused, then reached for a stack of papers on the coffee table. My eyes followed them instinctively. They were property deeds, hundreds of them, organized meticulously. I didn't understand. "Tonight," she continued, "you will officially become the general manager of the company. Effective immediately. The position was yours, but now it's also symbolic. It marks your independence, your power, and the respect you deserve. Don't waste it." I stared at her. My mind was spinning. CEO? General manager? Tonight? I had barely processed being dumped, and suddenly I was being handed responsibility I hadn't even imagined. My pulse raced, not from excitement, but from disbelief. "Wait," I started. "I don't even know if I can." "You can," she interrupted gently but firmly. "You've been working toward this your entire life. Your education, your dedication, your intelligence, they all led to this moment. Don't let someone else's foolishness stop you now." I wanted to protest, but the truth was she was right. I had spent years working, learning, preparing. And now the universe, or maybe just Quinn's mother, was giving me the chance I had always wanted. First night as CEO, the rest of the night was a blur. I had to sign documents, review budgets, and speak with key employees who were surprised but respectful. The company felt larger than life, intimidating, and yet thrilling. I could feel my confidence returning with every decision I made. Every action reminded me that I was in control now, not Quinn, not Amelia, and certainly not anyone else. Yet, even in that victory, I felt the ache of betrayal. The empty space where Quinn's love used to be hurt more than I expected. But something inside me had shifted. I wasn't going to crumble. I was going to rise. And then, as if fate wanted to test me further, he appeared. Elijah. The unexpected meeting earlier that day, during my chaotic schedule, I had gone for a quick checkup at the hospital. My chest felt tight, stress, I assumed, but I wanted to make sure everything was fine. I didn't expect him to be the doctor assigned to me. He was calm, professional, with sharp eyes that seemed to see right through me. "Are you feeling stressed?" he asked. There was no judgment, only concern. "Yes," I admitted. "Extremely." He nodded, examining me with efficiency and care. I felt my nerves calm slightly, even as my thoughts drifted back to Quinn and Amelia. He gave me advice, checked thoroughly, and left me with words I hadn't expected. "Everything will be okay. You're stronger than you think." That night, after stepping into the role of CEO, I couldn't stop thinking about him. There was something steady, dependable, and quietly comforting in his presence. Unlike Quinn, who had thrown my life into chaos, Elijah seemed like someone I could rely on. I didn't know it yet, but this chance encounter would mark the beginning of something new, something real. Reflection amid chaos, I sat alone in my office after all the paperwork was done, the city lights shining through the tall windows. The world outside looked peaceful, unaware of the storm my heart had endured. I thought about the engagement, about Quinn's betrayal, and about the life I was now stepping into. It hit me that sometimes, life shatters your plans not to punish you, but to open doors you never knew existed. Tonight, I had been dumped. Tonight, I had been humiliated. Tonight, I had been given a gift I didn't expect. I allowed myself a small smile, even in the midst of heartbreak. I was alive. I was capable. I was free. And for the first time in years, I felt like the main character of my own life, not someone's accessory. The first week as CEO was overwhelming. I had expected paperwork, meetings, and endless phone calls, but nothing could have prepared me for the intensity of stepping into full control of a company I had only dreamed of leading. Employees looked at me with a mixture of respect and curiosity. Some were supportive, others skeptical. And me? I was terrified and exhilarated all at once. My office overlooked the city skyline, and every time I glanced at it, I felt a strange mix of pride and disbelief. Just a few days ago, I had been humiliated at my own engagement party. Now, here I was, making decisions that affected hundreds of people's lives. It was empowering and lonely. Elijah's role becomes clear the next day. Elijah appeared at the office, not in a hospital setting, but in a completely unexpected way. He had been assigned as the company's medical consultant to oversee employee health and wellness. He was calm, professional, and immaculately dressed. When he walked into the office, our eyes met, and for a moment, the chaos of the past week felt distant. "Stella," he said, his voice steady, with a hint of surprise. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I didn't either," I admitted, trying to keep my tone casual. But I couldn't help noticing how composed he looked, even in a corporate setting that was clearly not his usual environment. We talked briefly about employee wellness, But beneath the conversation, there was an unspoken connection, a familiarity, something comforting. I realized that while Quinn had thrown my life into chaos, Elijah offered calm stability. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what I needed. First challenge as CEO, it wasn't long before the first major challenge appeared. One of the company's key clients had threatened to pull a major contract due to miscommunication during the engagement chaos. I had to step in immediately. I called an emergency meeting. My heart pounded as I entered the boardroom. Employees, managers, and executives were waiting. Some looked skeptical, clearly wondering how a young woman, suddenly thrust into leadership, could handle the pressure. But I refused to let doubt take over. I spoke calmly, laying out a detailed plan, delegating responsibilities, and setting clear deadlines. I could see the respect in their eyes grow as I spoke. For the first time in years, I felt the thrill of leadership, not just surviving but thriving under pressure. By the end of the day, the crisis was averted. The client was reassured. My team's confidence in me had grown, and my own confidence skyrocketed. Unexpected bonding moments during this time, Elijah kept showing up at key moments, sometimes subtly, sometimes more directly. He offered guidance, small tips, and calm advice, never imposing, never overstepping. One afternoon, we found ourselves alone in the break room. He handed me a cup of coffee, and we started talking not about work, but about life. "You handled everything yesterday really well," he said. "I know it wasn't easy." I laughed lightly, hiding a sigh.
Easy?
Being dumped at my own engagement?
No.
Not easy. He smiled faintly, a little embarrassed, I think. "I'm sorry you had to go through that. But you're incredible. You didn't let it stop you. You faced everything head-on." His words hit me harder than I expected. Not because they were comforting, but because they were honest. And honesty was something I hadn't felt from Quinn in a long time. The company begins to notice, word spread quickly. Employees and even rival companies began noticing the young woman who had gone from heartbreak to leadership in one night. Some tried to challenge me, some tried to belittle me, but most respected my decisiveness, intelligence, and calm demeanor under pressure. I started walking into meetings with a sense of purpose I had never known. I wasn't just Stella, the girl dumped at her engagement party. I was Stella, the CEO. And every decision I made reinforced that identity, giving me a strength I hadn't realized I had. Conflict from the past creeps in, but just as I was settling into this new life, I received a call from Quinn. "Stella, I made a mistake. I want to talk." My chest tightened. Hearing his voice again, after the humiliation and betrayal, was like reopening a wound that hadn't healed. I wanted to slam the phone down. I wanted to tell him to leave me alone. But curiosity and the lingering connection we shared made me pause. "I don't want to talk," I said finally, my voice steady but cold.
Not now.
"Not ever." He hesitated. "Please, Stella." I said no. I interrupted firmly. "Goodbye, Quinn." Hanging up, I felt a strange mix of relief and lingering anger. I realized that part of stepping into power wasn't just about leading a company, it was about reclaiming my life. I couldn't let the past control me. Not him. Not anyone. Closing reflection of part 3. By the end of that week, I had faced down challenges, proved my abilities, and navigated a chaotic start to my leadership. I had met someone new, Elijah, whose quiet strength and honesty began to feel like a safe harbor in the storm. And while my heart still carried scars from Quinn, I began to understand that life wasn't about the people who betrayed you, it was about how you rose after the fall. For the first time, I felt excited about the future, not terrified of it. And little did I know, the next weeks would test not only my leadership but also my heart, my resilience, and my ability to trust again. The weeks that followed my promotion were a whirlwind of meetings, decisions, and unexpected responsibilities. Every morning, I walked into the office with a mixture of determination and exhaustion. I had proven to myself that I could survive the heartbreak, but now I needed to thrive. And I would. Elijah's presence became more frequent in the office. Not intrusive, not overbearing, just steady. He had a way of observing without judging, of offering advice without demanding attention. Sometimes, our eyes would meet across the conference room, and I felt a strange comfort, as if his calm energy could absorb the storm that still raged inside me. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The memory of Quinn haunted me, occasionally appearing like a shadow in my mind, especially when emails or calls from our shared business contacts popped up. And Amelia, her name had been whispered among a few of Quinn's mutual friends, the kind that liked stirring up drama. The unexpected interference one afternoon, a package arrived at the office for me. Inside was a bouquet of lilies and a handwritten note. "Stella, you don't deserve this treatment. Quinn realizes his mistake. I hope you reconsider." I felt my blood boil. I knew immediately who had sent it, Amelia. The arrogance to assume I would even entertain the idea of getting back with Quinn was infuriating. I crumpled the note and threw it into the trash without reading it fully. But the gesture, bold and calculated, was meant to provoke me, and it did. Elijah noticed. "Everything okay?" he asked quietly, his tone concerned but not prying. I shook my head, forcing a smile. "Nothing. Just some ridiculous drama." He nodded, but his gaze lingered on me, thoughtful. I realized then that he was more than just a consultant. He was a person I could trust, someone who saw me for who I truly was without judgment. Learning to lead under pressure, the company's first major project under my leadership, was a marketing campaign for a critical client. Everything depended on its success. Employees were nervous. Some doubted me. I could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. But I couldn't falter. I spent late nights in the office, strategizing with the team, refining every detail. I even asked Elijah's opinion on employee wellness, small touches like scheduling breaks and providing stress relief workshops, which surprisingly improved productivity. By the end of the week, the campaign launched flawlessly. The client was thrilled, the team's confidence in me skyrocketed, and for the first time, I felt a deep sense of pride. I wasn't just surviving my role, I was shaping it. A moment of unexpected connection after a long day, I stayed behind in my office, going through reports, when Elijah quietly knocked and entered with 2 cups of coffee. "You work too hard," he said, handing me one of the cups. "Even CEOs need a break." I laughed softly, the tension of the day easing. "Do you think CEOs have time for breaks?" "Maybe not," he replied with a small smile. "But they should. And maybe, just maybe, a little human connection wouldn't hurt either." I looked up at him, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt since the engagement fiasco. There was no pressure, no expectation, just a shared moment. For the first time in weeks, I felt a small flicker of something new. Curiosity about someone who could respect me, who didn't take advantage of me, and who wasn't entangled in past heartbreak. Quinn and Amelia strike back just as I began to feel some peace. A phone call from Quinn shattered the calm. "Stella, I need to explain." No, I interrupted firmly. "There's nothing to explain. You made your choice. End of story." "Please." I didn't realize. I said no. I repeated, stronger this time. "Don't call again." He hung up, probably frustrated, probably angry. I felt a surge of relief. For once, I controlled the narrative. I wasn't reacting to his whims. I was making my own choices. But the next week, Amelia made her move. She somehow got an invitation to a company gala, claiming it was a networking opportunity. I couldn't control who attended, but her presence felt like a deliberate attempt to unsettle me. Standing strong at the gala, I kept my composure. I greeted guests politely, managed the team, and even delivered a short speech about the company's vision. Every eye that tried to gauge my reaction to Amelia found only calm determination. I wasn't going to let her disrupt me. Elijah was there too, quietly by my side during the speeches. His presence was a silent shield, giving me confidence without needing words. And when Amelia tried subtly to provoke a reaction, I simply smiled politely and walked away. That night, I realized something important. Power isn't just about a title or a position. It's about self-control, resilience, and the ability to remain calm even when chaos surrounds you. And for the first time, I felt like I had mastered that power, not just in the office, but in my life. Reflection on growth and trust. As I left the gala and stepped into the cool night air, I thought about everything that had happened. Quinn's betrayal, the unexpected promotion, the arrival of someone like Elijah into my life, and the persistent attempts by Amelia to interfere. I realized I was no longer the same person. I was stronger, wiser, and more aware of what I deserved. I had survived heartbreak, humiliation, and unexpected challenges, and I had come out on top. And as I walked toward the car, I noticed Elijah waiting for me, a calm smile on his face. He extended his hand. "Need a ride?" I took it, feeling a warmth in my chest that wasn't tied to heartbreak, betrayal, or anger. It was something new, something real. And for the first time in months, I looked forward to what might come next, not with fear, but with hope. The weeks after the gala passed in a blur of work, strategy meetings, and small victories. I had settled into my role as CEO, gaining confidence with every decision I made. My team looked to me for guidance, and for the first time, I felt truly in control of my life. Yet, despite my professional success, there was still a lingering emotional shadow, the memory of Quinn and the chaos he had caused. I didn't want to dwell on him, but the occasional messages and mentions from acquaintances reminded me that his betrayal had been real and painful. I had promised myself I would never let anyone control my heart the way he had. Elijah becomes more than a friend. Elijah's presence in my life grew naturally. He was always there in the background, providing guidance and calm when the pressure mounted. And slowly, our connection deepened. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Elijah knocked on my office door. "You're still here?" he asked softly. "Yes," I replied, tired but satisfied. The team needed final approval on the budget, and I didn't want to leave anything unfinished. He smiled, a warm, genuine expression that made my chest flutter. "You don't have to carry it all alone, you know. You can lean on someone else sometimes." I looked at him, my heart racing unexpectedly. For months, I had carried the weight of heartbreak, betrayal, and sudden responsibility alone. And now, here was someone who genuinely cared, not for my status, my money, or my past, but for me. Without thinking, I said, "Maybe I could use a little help." That small admission was the start of something new, a trust one hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. The unexpected challenge, just as things seemed to be settling, Quinn and Amelia made one last attempt. A former business partner of Quinn's called, trying to stir trouble, claiming there were unresolved financial issues. I knew it was a setup, likely encouraged by Quinn and Amelia, but I had grown stronger. Instead of panicking, I gathered the facts, consulted with my team, and calmly handled the situation. Elijah was by my side, supporting me, providing insight from his perspective, and even comforting me when frustration threatened to take over. By the end of the week, the issue was resolved. The confidence I felt wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. I had survived every test, every challenge, and every attempt at interference. And I had emerged stronger. A moment of vulnerability late one night, Elijah and I found ourselves alone in the office. The city lights twinkled outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the hum of the office felt distant, almost dreamlike. "I never thought I'd see someone handle so much with such grace," he said quietly, looking at me with a tenderness that made my heart skip. I shook my head. "Grace? I've made mistakes. I've stumbled. But I've also learned that I don't have to wait for anyone to save me. I can save myself." He nodded, stepping closer. "And yet, sometimes, it's okay to let someone stand beside you. Not to carry the weight for you, but to share it." Our eyes met, and the unspoken tension between us shifted. There was something in his gaze, steady, protective, and yet filled with quiet admiration. My heartbeat accelerated. For the first time in months, I felt the possibility of happiness, not tainted by betrayal or loss. Confrontation and closure. The following week, Quinn attempted to reach out one final time. "Stella, I made a mistake. Can we meet?" he called over email. I paused, staring at the screen. I had a choice, to respond or to leave the past where it belonged. I typed a short, firm response. Quinn, our story ended. Please do not contact me again. I am focused on my life, my work, and my future. No hesitation. No lingering doubt. Just clarity. And Amelia? She eventually disappeared from the circles we shared. Her attempts at interference failed because I had grown stronger, both emotionally and professionally. The world was no longer controlled by those who tried to manipulate me. A new beginning with Elijah finally. One quiet evening, Elijah asked me to dinner. Not as a business meeting, not as a networking opportunity, but simply as two people enjoying a moment together. We went to a small restaurant overlooking the river. The lights reflected on the water, and the city buzzed softly around us. Elijah, I began, nervous for the first time in months. I've spent so long protecting myself. I'm not sure how to trust again. He reached across the table and gently held my hand. You don't have to figure it all out at once. But I'll be here, step by step, if you let me. I looked into his eyes and saw honesty, steadiness, and warmth. For the first time, I allowed myself to believe in something real, something lasting. And in that moment, I knew I had found not just a partner, but someone who would respect, support, and stand beside me through everything life threw our way. Reflection and triumph looking back, the journey had been anything but easy. I had been dumped publicly, humiliated, and challenged at every turn. But I had also been promoted, trusted, and recognized for my abilities. I had found someone genuine, someone trustworthy, someone who valued me for me. I realized that life's storms often carry hidden gifts. Heartbreak and betrayal had taught me resilience. Responsibility and challenges had taught me leadership. And a chance encounter with someone kind had taught me trust. By the time the night ended, I was no longer the girl who had been discarded at her engagement party. I was a woman who had reclaimed her life, embraced her power, and opened her heart again, on her own terms. And as Elijah and I walked hand in hand through the quiet streets, I finally felt at peace.